The ICook Foods saga remains a battleground of destruction. Since the saga first broke 3 years ago, disturbing allegations of inappropriate behaviour continue to arise about the conduct of various government, council and police personnel. Now, just this week, further evidence surfaced from a senior source within the Department of Health and Human Services about the heavy-handed tactics DHHS have used to silence the original auditor who conducted the audit into ICook Foods. DHHS have threatened to deregister the auditor if he did not collate all of the documents of the original audit and pass them on to DHHS. Now, it seems DHHS are hell-bent on mopping up evidence that may point to the corrupt behaviour of the department and some of its senior ranking officials. And joining us to discuss this latest revelation is the man who has been front and centre of the ICook Foods debacle, Ian Cook. Welcome, Ian.
G'day, Michael. How are you?
Can it get any worse?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But I think, as we've said, have a look at the front page of The Age today. I mean, and you've got IBAC and in their report saying that this is systemic. This is through the bureaucracy. It's through the Labor Party. It's a culture. So it's a culture now of cover up, corruption, whatever you want to call it. They have their own agenda, and you don't want to get in the way of it. If you do, they will find a way of punishing you.
So what's actually happened here with the latest, with the auditor being asked to collate all of the documents, eh?
So what we know is we had an informer who works, who's very closely aligned with the Department of, well, we called it DHHS. It's now just called the Department of Health, as part of the cover-up. So remember, they came in and closed us, and then they said we had to have a food safety audit. We're in court with that auditor because he colluded with a woman named Pauline Maloney to change his report to keep us closed to ensure our destruction. Part of the cover-up was that an informer has now told us they went back to the previous auditor. So the audit that he did was the one that was in force at the time, and he had passed us. So, you know, everything's okay here. They went back to him and threatened him with his registration if he didn't give them what they wanted. Now, I don't know more than that at the moment, but we are hunting down more. And you just say, well, can you imagine? This is like your boss calling you in and saying, you know what, we're wondering about whether you've got a job tomorrow, Michael. Now, just a few things we want you to do. What are you going to do? Exactly. These guys rely on their registration for their income. So if you're not an authorised auditor on the Department of Health's authorised list, then you can't operate the audits, which gives them this huge power over them. And that power can be corrupted. And that's exactly what we're seeing now.
Yep. Now,
and by the way,
sorry,
no, that's okay. There's no, like, you know, people like John Benny accuse me all the time of being a conspiracy theorist. This isn't conspiracy. This is other people coming and tell us. This is the fourth person who works for the department or works in government that has come out and blown the whistle on them. Now, some of them don't want to be named. Obviously, they don't want to lose their jobs. But I have it in writing. I have it in or as recordings, etc. So people like yourself, anyone, I can let you hear it and say, there you go. And it's factual. Now, one day, IBAC or the Ombudsman or someone is going to come and do an inquiry into this, and all of this will come out.
Yeah. Now, we actually saw the handwritten notes from the audit that went backwards and forwards that were mistakenly handed up as part of their evidence brief that you discovered.
Yes, that's right. Well, that was also in the original FOI that came from the City of Greater Dandenong. And I'm guessing the FOI officer who released those documents is probably doing it tough about now, because those documents really are smoking guns. They just show that there was collusion, the guy wrote wrote an email that said, I've done the critical non-conformances. Now tell me what you want me to add or remove. Are you kidding? That's just phenomenal. So now that's 2 auditors. There was a 3rd auditor, a guy called Pollock, and we're still working on more information from him, but he was also contacted and was forced to hand over our our food safety audit that he did, the gap audit, to Pauline Maloney at the department. And we've got that because he accidentally sent us an email that he meant to send to her, and he accidentally sent it to me. Yeah. Then he tried to pull it back.
Yeah. And as far as these people who accuse you and your supporters of being conspiracy theorists, let's not forget we have ex-Chief Commissioner Cal Blair, one of the most decorated and respected police commissioners in history. Wonderful reforms, that has said he has never seen corruption at a level of what has been involved in this saga.
Yeah, look, that's right. It's you've got him, you've got Rod Porter, detective inspector, a retired detective inspector, Paul Brady, retired detective sergeant. Then there's 2 or 3 others that are working in the background behind them. All of them have read the evidence. All of them have looked at what's going on and said, this is just corruption. And then you've got these people that are happy to come out and tell us and put their name to what's like what we're just talking about, the informer that's come out and told us this. And it can't be everyone is wrong, and it can't be everyone's part of a conspiracy. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Now, with this going forward, with IBAC now seems to be putting Andrews under a bit of pressure given the latest reporting. The only problem is IBAC don't bring charges, and it has to be handed off to the police. How much confidence do you have, should it be handed off to the police, that it will be properly investigated?
Well, you would have to say, given what happened with red shirts, your confidence would be shaken. That anyone in Victoria would have to say that. I live in hope. I can tell you that we have spoken to serving police officers and police members of senior ranks who are absolutely appalled at the current hierarchy. But they are in fear of their jobs. A number of them have confirmed what's happened in terms of our matter being pulled and then bounced around like a football to different people. They know what's going on, but it's this current senior management, so commissioners and assistant commissioners, that are beholden to the powers that be, so the Daniel Andrews of this world. So you think about it, just what I just told you about the auditor. I mean, that's basically blackmail all day, every day. And they now have this. They have this information. They know what's gone on, and yet they're doing nothing. And you've got Shane Patton sitting on radio saying he didn't have enough information to, get any warrants against red shirts. And as I discussed with you before, you talk to any serving police officer, they don't need that. They just need a reasonable court. They just need to know that there's a reasonable chance they will get evidence by going and looking at a certain, certain person, certain set of documents, certain office, and they can get search warrants. That's the whole purpose of a search warrant, is to go and get the evidence that they are lacking when they are sure, or where they believe that a crime has been committed. And to fumble around on Victorian radio and say, oh, well, I didn't have enough. You didn't look. You're not looking. So let's hope IBAC is able to force them to look and to do. And it's for all of us. This isn't just for Ian and his 41 employees. This is for everyone in Victoria, because what's happened to us, what's happened to the Victorian public with the squandering of money through red shirts, it involves all of us. It involves every Victorian.
And let's be clear too, this isn't a partisan politics matter. Every government, regardless of their colour or stripes, should be held to an integrity level of the highest level. Liberal, Labor, Independents, whoever we want held, because without integrity, we have nothing. Yeah,
that's right. And look, if we can implore upon anyone, the next government in Victoria from any persuasion. What has to happen now is that the police chief commissioner position in Victoria should be selected by a joint sitting of Parliament. It has to be agreed by both sides. You cannot have that someone is in a position who is put there by a particular, by the person in power who then has the power over them, because the police have to be at arm's length. There has to be a separation of powers. It has to be that they can do their job without fear or favour.
Yeah, I would even go a step further, and I would say the head of any public service, whether it be the chief health officer, the head of planning, all of those things should be a 75 or 80% majority, as they do with the Supreme Court justice in America, where it removes that partisan, it stops the left and right, and we become more centrist in our appointments.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, from a political point of view, we've become so polarized that when an issue like this comes up, then you're accused of either being right or left. Well, no, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about justice. We're just talking about a fair go. We're just talking about being treated normally and fairly, not destroyed, and then everything covered up. Yeah. If you and I get back through the story again, we're talking about the auditors today and the fact that we've got an informer who's come out and told us horrendous things about threatening people's livelihoods. But if you go back to the very beginning, we were accused of killing someone. Oh, and then when they finally do the test results, the tests they should have done, they find that all of our food was safe. And so they went from there to DNA, and the DNA fell apart on them because it turned up in Queensland, WA. We don't sell there. So every time you step through these things, it has just been a corrupt cover-up from woe to go. And that's what we're fighting, is the corruption, not just for our own justice, but for everybody.
Yeah, and so it doesn't go forward. As we say, new government, existing government, it needs to be stopped. Now, the informer that's come forward, we saw reporting that where police came out and said they couldn't investigate now because a certain part of it, because the length of time had expired. But we've seen reporting that doesn't just pop out of nowhere, that they were investigating the leaks that gave you the document. That must have a chilling effect on anyone else looking at coming forward. And it's a fairly obvious message that's being sent. Stop leaking documents to ICook.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah. That's another, if you like, another way of threatening. It's almost a way of threatening publicly, is to say, we won't chase down serious crime if it's too political. What we'll do is we'll chase down anyone who releases information that shows it should be prosecuted, etc. So it's just a nice soft way of telling every police officer out there, be very careful, because we're coming after you if you release anything.
Yeah. And our appearance of competence and unbiased is more important than our actual incompetence and unbiasedness. So yeah, it's just ridiculous. All right, Ian, it's always like fascinating, part heartbreaking, and just definitely frustrating to catch up each time. Please keep us in the loop, and we'll look forward to further developments.
No worry. Anything comes forward, we'll let you know. And thank you for your support.
Thanks, Ian.